Good morning, everyone. I'm just going to try and share my screen here. So thank you for the opportunity to share some of the experiences of the Irish churches in working for reconciliation in the context of Brexit. The 1998 Belfast Good Friday Agreement has three strands concerned with relationships within Northern Ireland, on the island of Ireland, and between Britain and Ireland. Brexit upset the delicate balance of relationships held together in that agreement, and that was supported by common EU membership. It brought the question of borders back into politics in Northern Ireland with a predictably destabilising effect. One hopeful sign at the time was the fact that from the beginning, Christian churches were clear that they wanted to respond to Brexit together and work through the National Council to engage in dialogue with leaders in other sectors, including academia, business, and the community and voluntary sector. These conversations led to the preparation of a framework document that formed the basis for a consultation with local churches and interchurch groups across the island to hear their concerns. Particular emphasis was placed on the fact that this was a pastoral response because many people, including some clergy, argued that Brexit was nothing to do with churches. The response to that challenge was outlined in the conclusion of the consultation paper as follows. The churches, espousing no interest other than the common good of the entire human family and a politics responsive to the issues and culture of our time and our interdependent global condition, have a shared responsibility to create contexts and spaces of encounter, exchange, and understanding. The breakdown in political and community relationships was evident in the collapse and prolonged absence of Northern Ireland's political institutions from 2017. With the British and Irish governments focusing all their attention on the Brexit negotiations, the Christian church leaders took the initiative in September 2018 to invite the leaders of the largest political parties to meet with them all together. To many people's surprise, the invitations were all accepted, and when they came together, it was the first time that these party leaders had been in the same room for 8 months. This encounter led to the churches convening a series of civic dialogue initiatives across different parts of Northern Ireland, which brought together a cross-section of civil society with a cross-party panel of politicians. When the official negotiations were reconvened in May 2019, chaired jointly by the British and Irish governments, church leaders were invited to attend the talks process and present a report on their dialogue initiative entitled A Time for Courageous and Compassionate Leadership. A major recommendation in this report was that civic engagement by political leaders should not be limited to times of emergency. This was also a recurring theme in the church's ongoing engagement with the Brexit negotiations, where church representatives repeatedly expressed concern that much greater priority was given by both the UK government and the EU to consultation with the business community, when wider civic dialogue was essential in order to understand that there was much more at stake than issues of trade and economy, and to understand the sensitive issues around identity and community relations. An open letter from the Irish Interchurch meeting in October 2020 made this point. The Ireland-Northern Ireland Protocol follows the Good Friday Belfast Agreement as an international agreement that will have a defining influence on the future of people in Northern Ireland. We're concerned that the level of engagement with civil society and public awareness raising has not adequately reflected the true significance of this framework. When violence broke out in April 2021 in connection with opposition to the protocol from those who believed it undermined their British identity, church leaders issued a further open letter in which they sought to amplify the voices of those doing the frontline peace-building work at local level. The letter read, "The causes of this most recent outbreak of violence are complex and, in some respects, deep-rooted. Church representatives and other community leaders working on the ground in affected communities have spoken to us of their frustration at seeing another generation of young people risk their lives and their futures because repeated warnings about the need to treat our fragile peace with care went unheeded. Church leaders met with the Chief Constable of the Police Service to express their concern for the number of police officers injured in the violence, more than 50 in just 1 week. They also met with representatives of the British and Irish governments and others, including ambassadors from EU member states, and were able to use their position to ensure that high-level political negotiations did not lose sight of the consequences of uncertainty and instability for the lives of people in our most vulnerable and deprived communities, especially the young people. They also engaged with church leaders from across Britain through CTBI. This was important because this was also, in 2021, the centenary of the partition of Ireland, or of the establishment of Northern Ireland, depending on how you wish to look at it. Church leaders decided to embrace the challenge presented by these centenaries as an opportunity to deepen the work of reconciliation. On St. Patrick's Day that year, they released a statement entitled, "In Christ We Journey Together," in which they state, "Some may struggle with the concept of a shared history when it comes to the centenary of the partition of Ireland, the establishment of Northern Ireland, and the resulting reconfiguration of British-Irish relationships. What is undeniable, however, is the reality that we have to live in a shared space on these islands and to make them a place of belonging and welcome for all." In the statement, church leaders reflect self-critically on the role and leadership of the churches in divided communities and renew their commitment to the work of peace and reconciliation. This was followed up with an opportunity to reflect on these themes in prayer and worship in a service organised for October of last year. A major controversy erupted when the President of Ireland declined an invitation to attend on the basis that he considered it to be a politicised event. It had been hoped that the Irish President would participate alongside Queen Elizabeth in what was described as a service of reflection and hope. In the end, neither was present because health issues prevented Queen Elizabeth from travelling. And the service received very positive coverage in the media when people saw for themselves the content and tone, especially for the fact that particular priority was given to the voices of young people. Most importantly, it was warmly welcomed by those who were doing frontline peace-building work at local community level. So finally then, the current context is one of ongoing tension and uncertainty in relation to the Ireland-Northern Ireland Protocol and the long-term impact of Brexit for the region. It's also a time of renewed instability in Northern Ireland's political institutions, with the executive suspended and the future viability of the devolved assembly increasingly in doubt. And against this backdrop, the national ecumenical instruments in Ireland are working on a strategic framework entitled The Unfinished Work of Peace. The major focus of this work is the need to better connect what's happening at the senior leadership level with the work of local congregations and faith-based initiatives on the ground, so that each can support and resource the other. High-level interventions by senior church leaders can create a valuable space at critical times and are really important for the visibility of the churches working together for peace and the common good. But as this diagram illustrates, it's the actions on the ground that have the potential to reach the greatest number of people. This remains a work in progress, but developments in recent years have made a positive contribution to closing that gap. Thank you.